All right, welcome back to the NowCouch, and I appreciate you being here. So we're talking about CMDB, we're talking about the data, we're talking about all those wonderful things. You had a really good point about the data piece of it. And the question is, when you're dealing with the CMDB, how do you move forward if you don't have good data? You can't, right?
I was going to argue, I don't know how you can until you spend the time and resource to clean up the data in order to get into a better state for you to be able to expand to other areas
I think the harsh reality is you're going to have to pay for that at some point. If you don't govern the data going in, you're going to pay for it on the flip side of it. Or you're never going to get what you want.
And the sooner you do it, the less it's going to cost you.
That's right.
Yeah, long term, it's going to be a lot less expensive to do it ahead of time. And that's where it brings us into kind of our next topic, though, AI. If you don't have good data, it's getting the data from your system.
Yeah.
If your data's horrible, great example where I was talking to a customer and they want AI search. And they want to bring in the knowledge base. Oh my gosh, this is going to be great. They just type in what they want and it pulls up a knowledge article.
Yeah,
and I go, And I go, well, okay, that's great. What state are your knowledge articles? Oh, they're horrible. And I'm like, so it's going to be helpful. You're going to straighten out your knowledge articles first.
Yeah.
Well, the same thing with your CMDB, right? If the data's bad, the data's bad.
Yeah, I think AI, it's being sold as a magic pill, but it's not. It's a very sophisticated end cap tool on top of that foundation, and it's going to be as good as that foundation.
Yeah.
It's not. It isn't the foundation. Like, you still have to have the fundamentals for AI to work. You still have to know, the fundamentals, and you still have to. In fact, I think the AI age, it's going to be more important that people understand the fundamentals, and more important that people understand critical thinking than any other skill set when it comes to using AI.
Yeah.
Because if you don't keep those things clean and you don't keep a good eye on those things and know when, hey, something's off, then you run the risk of letting AI do things that are completely inaccurate and completely wrong, and not being able to catch that, not being able to notice that until there's been something very, costly down the line.
That's a good point, because if you want to think about a central piece where you have various spokes expanding out of it, I would consider AI as being a spoke that's moving out forward. But as you mentioned, if you don't have the foundation data maintained and clean, it's only going to be as good as the data that you have in your instance. It's not going to magically make anything better.
Yeah.
Well, and that's the thing. Everybody thinks AI is magic. Oh my gosh, it's going to take over the world, right? AI is gonna do something crazy. AI is gonna tell you what to do. AI is just a large data set. It's taking data from so massive a data set that it can mimic information that you might need. The larger the data set, the more accurate the information. But how many times have you been using ChatGPT and it's confidently wrong? Like, it's just completely bad. You're like, wait a second, that is the worst code I've ever seen in my life.
Well, you mentioned knowledge articles and knowledge searching, and let's just take that as a small example. If your knowledge base, the knowledge articles within your base are not well kept, they're not well maintained, the contents in the data that you have, the meta fields, are not accurate, and they need some upkeep.
Yeah.
Your knowledge searches are only going to be as good as the maintenance of the data.
Yeah.
So if you want to extrapolate that out, if your knowledge is not working well, how do you expect other aspects of the application that extends from the platform that depend on the foundational data?
Yeah.
How do you expect them to also work well, or at least as advertised, as we're seeing right now?
And it's just what it's a LLM, it's a large language model, right? That's all it is. And you can use ChatGPT, you can, like, one of the cool things I do like about ServiceNow is you can bring in any of those other chatbots that you want, but ServiceNow has its own chatbot, basically. And I say chatbot, but let's say AI, okay? But in ServiceNow, the thing that makes it unique, and this is where I think it's different than any other tool out there, where it makes it unique is that ServiceNow started with workflow, which is essentially doing an activity that is eliminating an agent. It is doing the level 0, shifting left, whichever, like there's 1,000 ways to say it, right? We're taking that repeated task and we're making like an approval instead of somebody handing you a piece of paper, right? It's triggering that in a workflow. Now that's, since the very beginning, that's the core concept of it. Now we're taking the core concept and now we're adding in large language model, and with the new agent, the agentic AI. Now agent assist is different, that's another part of it. It's actually taking that a step further, and it's not using the large data sets outside the system.
Mm-hmm.
It's actually utilizing what's going on in the system. What are the tickets? It finds a ticket, reset password, right? Somebody sits in the middle of the night, and when I reset my password, tickets gets created. It knows what to do, and it gets it done. And that's pretty cool. I mean, but how does it know to do it? Data. So why have we not, in our society, in all of these conferences, in all of these places, said, and I've never heard it said once, if you want AI to work right, you got to get your data right.
Well, because we're selling.
Because we're selling you a product.
We're selling stuff. You know, and there's so much confusing terminology out there. You know, when we talk about AI, especially in regards to like ServiceNow, it's a narrow AI. It's what's known as a narrow AI. There's no general intelligence right now, and it's getting very, very sophisticated, and it can do some very cool things, but it's still very narrow and very limited in scope. And that's what, you know, you think about in ServiceNow, you scope applications, and AI, you kind of have to think of it the same way. One AI is going to perform very well in its lane. Right. And the agents eventually will be able to say, okay, this lane has done its job, now I'm going to take this information, I'm going to hand it off to this lane, and it's going to do its job. And it's going to look like magic, but it's still fundamentally a system working together to do the work. And it's not as magically different from that perspective as it seems like it is from how we're doing things already in ServiceNow.
Now, it's still progressive. I mean, ServiceNow's paid like, I don't know, $1.3 billion for an AI company, and just bought them, and because they wanted, that's where they're expanding. That's the route they're going. And I do believe that we will be at a place where if you get your data right, it can do almost anything.
It'll look like it can.
It'll look like it.
Yeah, I mean, someday, I don't know. I'm not a terminalist, I guess. When it comes to I think that we're still quite a ways off from it can just do anything. You know.
Yeah. I feel like it's being sold that it's going to be a couple configuration clicks. And it's going to magically work, but I don't think that that's going to be it at all. There's going to be a lot of stuff that's going to have to go into the back end.
And we do. Like if there is a graphical interface that ServiceNow's come with for the AI. You train the AI. You bring in the AIs to work together. Like this is a lot of work for somebody to do.
Yeah, it's fundamentally going to shift where the work is done, but to your point, there's still going to be a lot of work to do. Mm-hmm. The question is, are people going to reskill in order to match the new work? You know, it's just like any time a new tool comes out, it's going to eliminate jobs and it's going to create new jobs, and people are going to have to reskill in order to match those new jobs. And the real danger is going to be, are we going to sit back and let AI do our work, or are we going to use AI to do harder work that we couldn't previously do?
Right.
And that's where people who have embraced that, I'm going to use this now to solve bigger and harder problems, those people are going to be very, very successful in an AI age that we're in right now. And those that are just looking at it from like, oh, well, I don't have to do these reports anymore, so I can go, sit on my back porch and just chill. They're not going to be that successful in the age. Those jobs are going to be replaced.
Right.
So you think the higher end jobs are going to be replaced versus the lower end jobs? Or maybe not end, but the higher skilled jobs versus the lower skilled jobs?
There's going to be an interesting mix. I think that anything that you can automate now is in danger, right? So there's a lot of things like if all I do all day long is I click a button over and over and over again, then there's not going to be a need for you to click that button anymore. You're going to have to start thinking about how to do it. At the same time, the requirement for extremely specialized knowledge is probably going to get reduced a little bit because of the LLM's ability to think about those problems much, much faster than what a human can. Where the jobs are going to stay is people who learn really, really well, like I was saying, how to work with the AI in order to get it.
Using the AI to better your product.
Right.
Using your AI. And I really, over the last, I would say 6 months, I've been exploring AI a lot.
Yeah.
And I will tell you this, it's very interesting. I've made videos, I've made pictures, but one of the most useful things I've done is creating PowerPoints for presentations to leadership, right, or to other people. And I use several tools. It doesn't actually take me a minute less, but the output is like 1,000 times better. And that's where the difference is. Like, I'm building what was 4-point PowerPoints, few graphics, looked okay, got the job done, and it took me 5 hours to do. Now I can spend 5 hours and I can get it to do graphics and integrate the text in with what the people are doing. I had, we were talking about, there was one presentation and it talked about the spine being this part of the organization and this in the skull being this part. Like, I had it like make me a skeleton with all those pieces and it engraved on each of the parts. Now, that one I didn't actually use. I thought it was cool, but I mean, I ended up going a little less morbid, but it's one of those things you go, this is awesome. I can make really great stuff. I can get my point across so much better by just using the technology that is in front of me. That is what will make somebody more valuable. It's not less time. It's just a better product.
I may date myself with this, but it's kind of like whenever we were learning Google and figure out how to ask the question to get the right answer.
Yeah, that's a great analogy. I mean, my first consulting job, I showed up with a duffel bag full of books because there was before Google. I've been in IT, and I showed up with a duffel bag full of books from the library and from Barnes and Noble. And then Google came along, and there were a lot of people that were like, "This is going to destroy us. We're not going to be able to consult anymore because people can just Google it." We find out that a lot of people don't know how to Google very well, right? AI is going to be kind of like that. I used the illustration a long time ago. People built houses and they tied things together, or then they formed it out of mud bricks or whatever. And then someone came up with a hammer and a nail, and then they became the top dog. And they built all the houses, and then everybody had a hammer and a nail. And then somebody invented a nail gun, and then they were the top dog. And then everybody had a nail gun, right? And now everybody has cordless nail guns and stuff like that. And you buy services from people you know, like, and trust, not because of the tools that they have. And the race that we're in right now, from a technology perspective, is everybody's, you got ServiceNow, you got Salesforce. If you look at Dreamforce, you look at Knowledge, you look at Canva, all these big software as a service companies that are out there, every single one of their big conventions was AI, 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 it's an AI arms race going on right now for that. Eventually, though, that is going to be ubiquitous, and it's not going to offer any competitive advantage whatsoever anymore. And it's going to come back down to: do I know you? Do I like you? Do I trust you? Who do I want to do business with? That's going to be a competitive advantage. And companies that rush to get rid of headcount in order to implement AI solutions are going to lose the game in the long run, because they will lose the trust of their people, they will lose the trust of their customers doing that. Companies that embrace, and the knowledge that's going to go away with it. Companies that embrace, how do I take AI and I'll let it make my people better and my products better?
Yeah.
Like you're saying, those are the companies that are going to win out in the long run because they won't have broken trust. But the companies that break public trust to save a dollar are going to lose out in the long run.
I won't say using AI as this one-all solution, but more so thinking of it as a tool to add to your tool belt.
Absolutely.
To aid you and help you to make better decisions.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you, that is very interesting because I see it all the time. The fear people have.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a legitimate fear.
It's a legitimate fear.
It is.
Yeah.
But I look at it as the reality behind it is everybody now has that tool.
Right. It's an inevitable fear.
It's an inevitable.
So you might as well adjust to it.
That's it.
And get ahead of it.
Right.
Rather than being run over by it.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you don't know AI, that's okay. It's not that hard. Go learn it. It's not it is intuitive. It's not that hard. But I think, in my opinion, ServiceNow has a better platform for AI and the way that they're doing it than any of the other competitors. Because the way that they started, the way that it was originally designed and structured, if you look at the table structure, if you look at the way it operates with workflow and flow designer now and all these things, it was already attempting to do what AI is doing today, and by adding that into it, it's a more compatible way.
Yeah.
And so it will just work more seamlessly than some of the others. They're trying to shove it in everywhere they can, but I think ServiceNow has the right mentality on where to put it from what I've seen. And I think it's going to be successful.
Well, the other thing is the community.
Oh,
There's
yes.
so much knowledge online from that it can pull from.
Yeah. I was watching a video today, Lauren McMahon, right? How many times? Like, I love her, like the big glasses and all. Yeah, she's amazing, right? But she's just talking through what AI is, and she's talking through AI for this and AI for that. And then I watched the main presentation of the new stuff that they've launched this year. You know, it was just in CSM, ITSM, and HR. Now it's in SecOps, FSM. It's across the platform now, and they are double and tripling down on the push to make it work the most efficient. And I think that just the fact that the way it was set up originally and Fred Luddy's vision, that was always his vision. His vision was always to streamline work. Mm-hmm. And it's just it's one more tool to do that streamlining of work.
Yeah.
You know, I would challenge the executives, you know, those that are making the decisions to purchase one tool as opposed to the other, to take some time to take a look at, to think more about these demos that they're seeing from, whether it's ServiceNow or from a competitor.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
The demos that you're seeing are based on an instance that's carefully manicured.
Curated. That's exactly
Curated
right.
is even a better word.
Yeah.
For what they're trying to showcase,
Mm-hmm.
as opposed to a customer that's been using ServiceNow for 5, 10, 12
Right.
years.
Yeah.
And that's something that I would encourage
Yeah.
prospective ServiceNow customers or those that are looking to get into AI
Yeah.
to reach out to existing customers, more mature customers that have dealt with whatever the issues may be, but as part of the growing process, what has your AI roadmap, your AI experience has been like? What kind of unexpected work did you have to do to try to reach that goal that has been advertised and what what seems like will be advertised for the forthcoming future.
Whatever tool it is.
Right. And that's just something I would challenge those decision makers to spend some time and effort to really do some research as to what are some pitfalls other customers, other competitors even maybe, what have they run into?
And I think it even goes further than that. If you're an executive and you're trying to make a decision, you're getting a tool, and you haven't bought a tool, and you're deciding ServiceNow, Salesforce, whatever, find somebody that knows them. Not biased. Let them research. Let them go through what your challenges are in your organization, and help find the organization or the things in your organization that need to be fixed. Then buy the tool that is going to help you the most. Don't just run out there and buy whatever the latest greatest is. And I know that you do research and things like that, but you need to make sure and go a little slower. I think people knee jerk a lot of stuff. You don't need to buy 10 tools. You need to figure out how you can get the one tool to work in the best way you can for your organization. And that takes a lot of time and a lot of effort and a lot of help. You can't do it by yourself. You need somebody from outside to come in, help you pick the tool, help you do your roadmap, and help you implement it.
I mean, when was the last time you all seen a commercial for a vehicle and you thought, that's what I want? You ran over to the dealership and purchased a vehicle. I don't think any one of us has done that. You see something you like, you do some research, you talk to other people, that have had that vehicle.
Yeah.
What are some issues, what do you like about it, but most importantly, what don't you like about it?
Right.
Or challenge it. That way you're trying to give yourself as much information as you can, so that hopefully the decision that you make, at least you've made it with as much information as you could possibly have. And I hope that's something that future customers and future adopters could also take into consideration to let's slow down and see what is the landscape looking like, and just to get the pros and the cons of the direction that you're looking to go in.
So, but I have done that with ice cream. And with that, we're going to take a quick break, and we'll be back to you in just a minute.